Royal bombshell. Harry sued. Prince faces defamation battle with his former African charity. Prince Harry is to be sued in the High Court for libel by Sentebale, the charity that he co-founded in memory of his late mother, Diana.
At precisely 7:12 a.m. in Sydney, the silence shattered. What was supposed to be another polished chapter in a carefully managed royal comeback allegedly exploded into chaos when secret recordings resurfaced and began circulating through powerful circles. And suddenly, the question no one wanted to ask was everywhere. Had Prince Harry just triggered the collapse of royal trust forever? Behind guarded doors, inside corridors built on protocol, whispers became panic. Because if confidential conversations were truly captured and leaked, then this was no ordinary embarrassment. This was exposure. This was betrayal. This was the kind of moment institutions never forget. The illusion had already been cracking long before the public noticed. High above Sydney, inside a secured luxury hotel, what looked glamorous from the outside reportedly felt tense within. Smiles were present, yes. Cameras were ready, yes. But insiders claimed nerves were rising by the hour. Something was wrong. Something had shifted. By April 14th, 2026, the mood had changed completely. No more soft handling, no more symbolic courtesies. New royal protocol laws had redrawn the line between duty and private ambition, and that line was about to cut deep. Under those revised rules, any overseas appearance without formal palace approval, especially if linked to media deals, branding, or private gain, could no longer hide behind the glamour of royal service. It became a personal business venture, and once that label lands, the privilege disappears. That is exactly where the storm reportedly began. Harry and Meghan arrived with the structure of a royal tour, appearances, meetings, charity optics, polished movement. But one key ingredient was missing: authorization. Without that, everything changed. What looked ceremonial suddenly looked commercial. What looked official suddenly looked exposed. Then came the elevator confrontation that insiders still whisper about. A senior federal agent allegedly delivered the message directly and without softness. No state-backed protection, no diplomatic umbrella, no exceptions. 2 hours to arrange private security. Imagine the room. Imagine the disbelief. Imagine hearing that the institution once built around you had stepped aside completely. Questions were raised about optics, about safety, about global embarrassment. But the reply reportedly came back ice cold: perception no longer matters. Compliance does. That one sentence may have said more than any public statement ever could. By 10:00 a.m., the downgrade was visible to everyone paying attention. Escorts vanished. Motorcades quieted. Institutional protection was replaced by privately hired teams with rapidly increasing costs. What had once been automatic now came with invoices. What had once symbolized status now became personal expense. And outside those walls, reactions spread fast. Some saw procedure, others saw punishment. But either way, the message was unmistakable. The palace had changed the rules, and this time it was willing to enforce them. Yet, while security drama unfolded, another performance was already moving into place. The next morning, a visit to a children's hospital delivered emotional images that spread quickly across social media. Gentle gestures, soft smiles, compassion framed perfectly. To many viewers, it looked heartfelt. But critics began asking a sharper question. Was it charity or was it content? Because every second appeared tightly managed, every angle polished, every moment ready for distribution. The appearance lasted just long enough to create impact, but not long enough to invite deeper scrutiny. And in modern celebrity strategy, timing is everything. Then the contrast became explosive. Around 6 a.m., invitations reportedly circulated for an exclusive luxury wellness retreat in Coogee, priced at $3,200. Suddenly, the emotional hospital imagery was followed by a premium commercial offer. Compassion on Monday, commerce on Tuesday. To supporters, it was entrepreneurship. To critics, it was monetized empathy. In a city where ordinary workers count every paycheck, the price tag hit differently. And that is where the whispers grew louder. Were public emotions being converted into private revenue? Observers began noticing a pattern. First comes visibility in meaningful spaces. Then comes emotional connection. Then comes the product, a formula, a cycle, a machine dressed as sincerity. Whether fair or unfair, that perception started spreading rapidly, and once public suspicion attaches itself to branding, it becomes very hard to remove, because people forgive mistakes faster than they forgive manipulation. At the Macaulay Community Center, more questions surfaced. Witnesses allegedly noticed lifestyle products positioned carefully within camera view, just enough to be seen, not enough to be obvious. It was subtle, strategic, and deeply modern. Charity and branding occupying the same frame. Was it coincidence? Was it planning? Or was every room now a potential studio? That question may sound small, but institutions have collapsed over smaller patterns once trust begins to erode. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in London, the tone was reportedly hardening. Internal communication lines were said to be narrowing. Information once shared freely allegedly stopped flowing. Schedules, briefings, private updates restricted. What insiders described as an iron wall was quietly forming, and at the center of that shift stood Prince William, whose influence inside the machine was said to be growing stronger by the day. If true, this was not emotional retaliation. It was strategic containment. Then came Catherine. While chaos swirled elsewhere, her team reportedly released practical public materials on childhood development, free, structured, useful, and absent of commercial gates. No glossy upsell, no premium package, no curated retreat. The contrast did not need words. It spoke for itself. Service versus monetization, duty versus branding, substance versus spectacle. And when comparisons arrived silently, they often hit harder than open attacks. By now, the Sydney trip no longer looked like a tour. It looked like a battlefield of symbols. Security stripped, optics questioned, branding scrutinized, London tightening ranks. And somewhere in the middle of it all, those alleged secret recordings still hovered like smoke in a locked room. Because if those recordings were real, then every smile, every statement, every denial could soon face a far more dangerous opponent: evidence. The deeper shock was that Sydney may have been only the surface. While cameras followed public appearances, another war was allegedly unfolding through lawyers, documents, and silent phone calls that never make headlines until it is too late. At exactly 9:45 a.m., according to insiders, a subtle but devastating shift began to reshape the narrative. Meghan's polished wellness push was still circulating online, but from Catherine's side came something entirely different. Carefully prepared resources, data-backed guidance, practical material offered freely to the public. No price tag, no velvet rope, no premium invitation. The contrast landed like thunder without anyone needing to raise their voice. One side appeared to monetize attention. The other appeared to convert attention into service. In royal conflicts, the loudest blow is often the one delivered in silence. But behind that public contrast, palace machinery was reportedly moving with far sharper intent. Princess Anne, long associated with discipline and institutional protection, was said to be overseeing internal reviews tied to the sovereign grant and commercial misuse of royal-linked branding. Sources claimed concerns had grown over symbols, imagery, and associations that appeared too close to crown identity while being used to fuel private ventures. By 11:00 Greenwich Mean Time, a confidential warning was allegedly circulating. The tone, insiders say, was direct and cold. There would be a strict timeline to respond. If ignored, the matter could escalate into the London Commercial Court. What looked like image management was now drifting toward legal territory. And once disputes move from gossip into courtrooms, truth becomes expensive. Then came the case that stunned even seasoned observers. At 10:15 a.m., a sealed legal record reportedly opened, revealing a formal clash between Prince Harry and a charity he once helped build. Think about that for a moment. Not rivals, not tabloids, not critics. A charity linked to his own legacy. That detail alone changed everything. Because when former allies become claimants, the public starts asking what happened behind the speeches, behind the staged unity, behind the carefully edited narratives. The filing allegedly sought serious remedies, including potential freezing orders over assets tied to the United Kingdom if evidence supported claims of breached agreements. Suddenly, this was no longer about bruised reputations. This was about money, leverage, and control. The mechanics of such pressure are brutal. First comes review, then restrictions, then panic. If funds risk being moved beyond reach, courts can act fast. Properties, accounts, transactions, all can come under scrutiny. Even the rumor of such action can frighten partners, stall deals, and isolate networks. And when multiple fronts open at once, legal stress becomes psychological stress. That is when mistakes happen. That is when emails get exposed. That is when people who once stayed loyal begin protecting themselves first. One email in particular allegedly became the center of growing attention, sent around 3:00 a.m. From Montecito, it reportedly appeared on page 42 of filings and raised serious questions about private attitudes toward people once considered allies. We do not know the full contents. We do not know the full context, but insiders claim its tone, timing, and assumptions may matter as much as its words. Why send such a message in the early hours? Why write anything sensitive when legal clouds were already forming? Why assume privacy in an age where everything eventually leaks? Those questions alone were enough to make observers in London whisper that perception had now become evidence. Then attention snapped back to Australia, where the tour itself seemed to be collapsing in real time. Public anger reportedly intensified over the idea that taxpayers could fund security linked to what many now saw as a private commercial visit. Petitions grew. Officials faced pressure. The couple, once marketed as globally admired figures, suddenly looked trapped in a diplomatic standoff. Their movements reportedly narrowed. Their options seemed fewer by the hour. Behind closed doors, one undisclosed communication from the king's private secretary allegedly changed the atmosphere entirely, raising speculation that an accelerated return to California might already be under discussion. If true, that means the ending may have been planned before the cameras realized the show was over. Analysts then outlined 3 possible outcomes. First, a dramatic counterattack through media releases or private recordings designed to shift blame and redirect outrage. Second, a quiet midnight departure framed as security necessity or family urgency. Third, and reportedly most likely, an official rejection by Australian authorities that would strip any remaining diplomatic recognition and force an orderly withdrawal. Notice something chilling here. None of the scenarios sounded triumphant. None sounded empowering. All sounded defensive. That alone tells you how quickly momentum can reverse when institutions stop cooperating. Yet perhaps the strangest twist involved a photograph from a hospital visit in Sydney. Meghan was seen interacting with children, but attention unexpectedly turned to a sapphire ring on her right hand. Investigators and royal watch circles began claiming the stone resembled an item once reported missing from Kensington Palace storage years earlier. Is that proven? No. Is it confirmed? No. But once such speculation enters the bloodstream of public discourse, it becomes a story of its own. How did it get there? Is it the same jewel? Why now? Who benefits from the rumor? Sometimes the truth matters less than the timing of the suspicion. Even more explosive were claims of a 42-second corridor audio clip allegedly identifying a possible insider connected to old palace leaks and movement of sensitive property. If verified, that would transform years of whispers into something investigators could actually examine. But even if never verified, the mere existence of such a claim deepens paranoia. Because in royal systems built on discretion, nothing is more dangerous than the belief that walls have ears. And that may be the true story beneath all of this. Not one tour, not one argument, not one lawsuit, but the collapse of trust itself. Trust between brothers, trust between institution and exile, trust between public image and private motive, trust between what is said and what is secretly recorded. Once that fractures, titles cannot repair it, money cannot repair it, press releases cannot repair it. The palace knows that, Harry knows that, everyone around them knows that. So where does this end? With reconciliation? With removal? With a negotiated silence brought behind the scenes? Or with one final leak so devastating that every side loses something permanent? Because the most dangerous phase of any power struggle is not the beginning. It is the moment both sides believe they have nothing left to protect. And judging by what allegedly surfaced in Sydney, that moment may already have arrived.